The battlefield was alive with fire and thunder. Across the endless dark of space, two alien empires clashed. Their fleet stretched across the void like burning constellations. Thousands of warships unleashed rivers of plasma and beams of energy that cut through the cold black sky. Explosions bloomed like dying stars, and wreckage spun slowly into the abyss. The galaxy was watching. Every system, every station, every world tuned in to the battle broadcast, and across the stars beings whispered and shouted, eager to see who would claim victory in this war that had raged for decades. The Andrix Dominion fielded ships of steel and shadow, vast triangles bristling with heavy cannons. Their fleets moved like a wall, ruthless and cold. Facing them were the Kelvar Alliance, a proud race with shining carriers and elegant cruisers. Their weapons sparked with blue light. Their fighter wings swarmed like hornets. Both sides had poured everything into this conflict, and it seemed no force could tip the balance. Then, as the galaxy watched, something strange appeared at the edge of the battlefield. A single ship drifted into the storm of war. It was dark and silent, its hull scarred, its silhouette sharp but unfamiliar to most. One human battleship, alone, small compared to the massive alien armadas that filled the void. For a moment no one believed it. Whispers echoed through the broadcast channels. Was this some mistake? Was this ship lost? Was this a relic from some forgotten age? The commentators laughed. Alien voices filled with mockery. One ship could not decide the outcome of a galactic war. Not when thousands clashed and millions of lives burned in the flames. The onlookers jeered. Look at that fragile thing, it will be dust in seconds. Another voice laughed. Humans must be desperate to send a single relic against empires. Inside the lone battleship, silence ruled. The crew sat ready, eyes fixed on their captain. The man stood tall in the command chair, his face calm, his gaze steady. He had seen wars before, he had lost friends before, but his voice carried no fear. He gave a single order, activate battle mode, and the words fell like thunder. The ship awoke, lights running across its hull, engines humming with deep power. Hidden lines began to glow, a strange energy flowed through the metal like veins of fire, not the plasma of the Andrix nor the elegant blue light of the Kelvar, but something older, something human, something no alien had ever fully understood. On the broadcast, the galaxy went quiet for a moment. They had expected the human ship to flee, to hide, to be destroyed in seconds, but instead it stood its ground, drifting forward into the battlefield with calm purpose. The great fleets turned their sensors toward it, their targeting arrays locking on. The captains of alien warships gave the order to fire, but before they could unleash their storm, the human ship moved not with fear but with precision. It slid through the wreckage of fallen ships, its hull glinting faintly in the light of explosions. Every motion was sharp, deliberate, like a predator stalking through the chaos. The onlookers felt something shift inside them. The laughter in their throats turned uneasy. The alien admirals sneered. Destroy it, crush this insect. Weapons charged, cannons glowed, fleets prepared to fire. Thousands of barrels aimed at the single intruder. It was madness. No ship could survive such fury. And yet the human captain did not flinch. His eyes narrowed as the ship's systems hummed louder. Deep in its heart, an ancient engine roared awake. The crew whispered to one another, some in fear, some in awe. They had all heard the legends. They knew this ship was more than steel and guns. It carried the last breath of human defiance. The first wave of alien fire lit up the void. Red and blue energy streams streaked toward the human vessel. The galaxy held its breath, certain it was about to be erased in fire. But then the human ship flared with light, shields rising like a storm wall. Beams cracked against its surface and scattered into sparks. Explosions erupted, but the ship held firm, not crumbling, not breaking. The silence in the broadcast channels was sharp now. Across the stars, aliens leaned closer to their screens, hearts pounding, disbelief in their voices. It survived. One ship against that storm, and it survived. Inside, the captain whispered, his voice calm but strong. They do not understand. They never understood. One ship is enough. The Galaxy watched as the human battleship glided deeper into the battlefield, its guns silent, its engines steady, waiting for the moment to strike. Onlookers who had laughed minutes ago now sat frozen, uncertain whether to fear or admire what they saw. The captain gave no grand speech, no declaration, only a nod to his crew, and they understood their ship was not there to survive. It was there to show the galaxy what humanity meant when it entered the storm. And in that moment, in the heart of fire and ruin, every being across the stars felt the same chill run through them, a whisper that echoed from one world to another. The humans are here. And the laughter died, replaced by silence. The silent arrival was no mistake. It was the beginning of something the galaxy would never forget. The first spark of a storm that would shake empires, and though no one yet knew what would follow, all could feel it in their bones. One battleship had entered the battlefield, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The battlefield burned with 1,000 suns. Wreckage floated in the dark like shattered bones. Alien fleets still rained fire at each other. Yet now every eye had turned to the intruder. The human battleship. It stood alone among titans, but its presence had stolen the attention of the galaxy. The Andrix Dominion, proud and merciless, were the first to react. Their admirals barked orders through harsh metallic voices. Eliminate it at once, show the galaxy that one human toy is no threat. 10 cruisers turned, their cannons glowing red, power surging through their hulls. The Kelvar Alliance did not move to stop them. They too wanted to see if the old human ship would vanish like dust. The galaxy's onlookers leaned forward in silence, expecting fire and finality. No one believed one ship could resist. Still, the human captain stood calm, his hands steady on the chair. His crew whispered but obeyed. And then came the storm. 100 cannons fired at once. Streaks of crimson ripped through the void. Explosions chased after the human ship. The sky itself seemed to shake. The galaxy gasped. Then silence fell. Smoke covered the place where the human ship had been. The commentators laughed, relief flooding alien voices. It is gone, destroyed like the fragile thing it was. But their laughter died quickly. From the smoke, a shape moved. The human ship glided forward untouched, its shield still humming like a deep heartbeat. The galaxy froze. Then the human ship fired, just once. A single blast of white energy tore across the void. It did not strike one target. It cut through. 4 Andrix cruisers at once, their hulls sliced in silence before fire consumed them. 4 ships gone in a single line of light. The galaxy gasped again. Voices trembled across the broadcast channels. How is this possible? No ship carries a weapon of that power. No fleet could match that strike. The onlookers who had mocked minutes ago now stared in awe, fear creeping into their words. The Andrix commanders roared with rage. They ordered every nearby ship to fire, not just cruisers but dreadnoughts, frigates, and corvettes. The void lit up with endless fire. Beams and missiles poured into the human ship. But the captain was ready. His ship moved like a phantom, sliding between wreckage, twisting through burning debris, never slowing, never panicking. Inside the ship, the crew felt their breath catch. They were alive inside something more than a machine. It was as if the battleship itself guided them, its systems whispering predictions, showing where each blast would strike before it happened. And the captain's eyes gleamed as he steered his ship through the inferno. The Kelvar Alliance, watching their enemy struggle, began to whisper among themselves. Some of their admirals asked, should we attack it too? Should we strike now before it grows stronger? But their leader shook her head, her gaze fixed. Wait, let us see what it can do. If this ship weakens the Dominion, we gain more than we lose. The galaxy's audience hung on every movement. For the first time in decades, neither side's fleets were the focus. The war between empires seemed small compared to the dance of one human battleship. Then came the second strike. The human ship unleashed another blast, this time splitting into smaller beams. Each beam struck with perfect accuracy, tearing down shields, disabling engines. 3 enemy ships fell dark, drifting helplessly as fire consumed their frames. The crowd cried out in shock. Impossible, one voice whispered. That ship fights as if it sees the future. Another voice replied, No, it fights like it has fought this war 1,000 times before. The Andrix grew desperate. Their dreadnoughts moved in closer, massive ships the size of floating cities, their guns powerful enough to tear moons apart. Their commanders sneered, believing no relic could pierce such armor. But the human captain only whispered, "Focus all power." And his crew obeyed. The ship's core glowed, brighter and brighter, light pouring through every line of its hull. Then it fired a concentrated beam, narrow as a spear, unstoppable in its force. It struck the dreadnought clean through, cutting it open like paper. The explosion bloomed like a newborn star. The galaxy fell into silence again. Thousands of voices caught in their throats. No one could believe it. One human battleship had just destroyed a dreadnought in seconds. Inside the ship, the crew felt their breath catch. They were alive inside something more than a machine. It was as if the battleship itself guided them, its systems whispering predictions, showing where each blast would strike before it happened. And the captain's eyes gleamed as he steered his ship through the inferno. The Kelvar Alliance, watching their enemy struggle, began to whisper among themselves. Some of their admirals asked, "Should we attack it too? Should we strike now before it grows stronger?" But their leader shook her head, her gaze fixed. "Wait. Let us see what it can do. If this ship weakens the Dominion, we gain more than we lose." The galaxy's audience hung on every movement. For the first time in decades, neither side's fleets were the focus. The war between empires seemed small compared to the dance of one human battleship. Then came the second strike. The human ship unleashed another blast, this time splitting into smaller beams. Each beam struck with perfect accuracy, tearing down shields, disabling engines. 3 enemy ships fell dark, drifting helplessly as fire consumed their frames. The crowd cried out in shock. "Impossible," one voice whispered. "That ship fights as if it sees the future." Another voice replied, "No, it fights like it has fought this war 1,000 times before." The Andrix grew desperate. Their dreadnoughts moved in closer, massive ships the size of floating cities, their guns powerful enough to tear moons apart. Their commanders sneered, believing no relic could pierce such armor. But the human captain only whispered, "Focus all power." And his crew obeyed. The ship's core glowed, brighter and brighter, light pouring through every line of its hull. Then it fired a concentrated beam, narrow as a spear, unstoppable in its force. It struck the dreadnought clean through, cutting it open like paper. The explosion bloomed like a newborn star. The galaxy fell into silence again. Thousands of voices caught in their throats. No one could believe it. One human battleship had just destroyed a dreadnought in seconds. Inside the ship, the crew felt the weight of their actions. Sweat covered their brows. Fear trembled in their hearts, but pride grew too. They were part of history. They were part of the storm. Their captain's voice carried steady. "Do not fear. This ship was built for moments like this." The Kelvar Alliance shifted nervously. Their commanders whispered that if one ship could shatter fleets, then tomorrow it could shatter them too. Yet none dared move, for they too were stunned by what they saw. The galaxy's commentators now spoke with awe instead of mockery. "The humans, long thought weak, long thought scattered, still carry weapons the galaxy cannot match. This ship is not just a relic, it is a message, a reminder." But whispers turned into fear. For if one ship could do this, how many more did humans hide? Were their fleets waiting in the dark? Were their worlds untouched by alien rule? Was humanity more dangerous than anyone believed? The battlefield, once a place of alien war, now belonged to the humans. Not by numbers, but by sheer will. The crowd across the stars leaned in closer, waiting, trembling, eager to know what this lone battleship would do next. And the captain, calm as ever, gave a simple command: "Advance." And his ship moved deeper into the heart of the war, engines glowing like fire, shields shimmering like a storm, and the galaxy realized with dread and awe that this was only the beginning, the first strike of a storm that would rewrite history. The void of space pulsed with fire and death. Alien fleets clashed like titans, but their war had changed. No longer was it Andrix versus Kelvar. No longer was it empire against empire. All eyes, all voices, all hearts across the galaxy had turned to the intruder, the lone human battleship. Drifting like a shadow in the storm, its arrival had been mocked, Its first strike had silenced laughter. Now its very presence spread fear. The Andric's dominion roared with fury, their pride broken. Their commanders screamed across their channels. Focus fire on the human vessel, destroy it at all costs. Hundreds of ships locked their sights on the intruder, the void itself lit with charging cannons. The Kelvar alliance, watching from a distance, hesitated. They hated the Dominion, but they feared the human ship more. Their admirals argued.
If the human ship wins, what becomes of us if it can tear through dreadnoughts?
What chance do we have tomorrow? Still, they waited, unwilling to step into the fire first. Inside the human battleship, resolute, tension gripped the crew. The deck trembled as enemy weapons charged. The young officers stared at their captain, waiting for orders, but his face remained calm, his eyes steady. He whispered only, "Hold the line." His voice was quiet, but in it was something unshakable. The enemy fired. Hundreds of blasts screamed through the void. The galaxy gasped. The storm of fire was enough to erase a fleet. But the human battleship moved, not with panic, not with chaos, but with precision. It twisted through the dark like a predator. Wreckage spun around it, explosions lit its path, yet no blast struck true. The ship's shields flared with burning light, absorbing what slipped through. Sparks filled the bridge, alarms screamed, but the captain's voice cut through them all. "Steady, redirect power, trust the ship." The crew obeyed, their hands shaking but their resolve holding. On the broadcast, alien commentators cried out in disbelief. "It cannot be. No vessel has ever evaded fire like this. It moves as if it knows where the shots will fall." Rumors spread instantly. Whispers of old human technology. Whispers that their machines were built not just with steel, but with instinct, with something alive. Then came the counterattack. The Resolute unleashed a storm of its own. Not a single blast, but a barrage of precise strikes. Every beam, every missile, found its mark. Alien destroyers broke apart in seconds, their wreckage scattering across the battlefield. Even the great Dominion cruisers buckled under its fire. The galaxy's voices rose, not in laughter, but in awe and fear. The Andric's tried to press harder, but every move they made, the human ship seemed to predict. When they flanked left, the Resolute was already waiting. When they dove from above, the Resolute fired before they arrived. It was as though the ship had fought this battle 100 times in dreams before living it in truth. The Kelvar alliance grew restless. Their fleets stirred. Whispers spread among their soldiers. What if it turns on us next? What if this is only the beginning? Still they did not attack. Fear chained them as much as wisdom. Inside the Resolute, the crew felt something awaken. Their ship seemed alive, guiding them through the storm. Their hands moved with instinct they did not know they had. Their eyes saw possibilities where none should exist. The ship and its people moved as one, and together they became something more than human. One officer, trembling, whispered to the captain, "Sir, this ship fights like it has a soul." And the captain, his gaze fixed on the burning battlefield, simply nodded. "It does. The soul of every human who ever refused to kneel." The enemy, enraged, brought forth their dreadnought line. Massive ships the size of floating cities, each bristling with weapons. Their commanders screamed, "End this now. No relic can face the power of empires." The dreadnoughts charged their main cannons, beams strong enough to crack moons. The galaxy held its breath. The Resolute did not flee. It dove headlong into the storm, weaving through fire, its guns blazing. The void shook as it clashed with giants. One dreadnought fell dark, its engines cut apart. Another erupted as the Resolute tore through its shields with a spear of light. But still more came, a wall of fire pressing in. Onlookers across the galaxy screamed, some in awe, some in terror. Never before had one ship stood against so many. Never before had empires looked so small before a single vessel. The legend of humans grew with every strike, every kill, yet inside the Resolute, the cost was rising. Consoles sparked, shields groaned, the core pulsed with strain. The crew knew their ship was powerful but not invincible. Still, their captain's eyes burned with steady fire. This ship was not built to last forever. It was built to remind the galaxy who we are. The onlookers shivered. The Kelvar admiral whispered, "If one ship can do this, imagine what a fleet could do. Imagine what the humans could become." Then the storm peaked. The Dominion unleashed everything, an ocean of fire crashing down, and the Resolute vanished. Into smoke and explosions, the galaxy cried out, believing it destroyed. Silence fell, heavy and final. But from the fire, the human ship emerged once more, battered, scarred, its hull burning, yet alive. It cut forward, its guns blazing, its shields glowing like a storm reborn. The crowd gasped as one, voices trembling. It cannot be stopped. It will not be stopped. And so the galaxy watched, hearts pounding, as the lone human battleship stormed deeper into the war, every move a promise, every strike a warning. It was no longer just a ship. It was a message carved in fire. The humans were here, and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy trembled under the light of burning fleets. Ships broke apart. Like fragile shells, wreckage drifted endlessly in the void, and yet the war had shifted. No longer was it a battle between the Andrix Dominion and the Kelvar Alliance. It was now the story of one ship, the human battleship Resolute. Across thousands of worlds, beings of every kind leaned close to their screens, their voices whispering questions. Who was the captain? Where had this ship come from? Why had humanity sent it now, and most of all, what secret power kept it alive when whole fleets fell? On the battlefield itself, the Andrix fleet struggled to recover from humiliation. The Kelvar hung back, suspicious and silent, and the galaxy's commentators searched for answers, their voices carried across channels. This vessel is no ordinary warship. It is too fast, too precise, too powerful. One voice whispered with dread, "It is human." Legends began to rise in real time. Tales of ancient human war machines built not for numbers but for survival. Whispers of projects abandoned when humanity withdrew from the galactic stage. Ships designed to fight entire fleets alone. The name Resolute spread like fire, and those who knew history trembled. Inside the ship, the crew felt the weight of that history pressing down on them. The young officers were trained to fight, but few had truly believed the stories until now. The captain stood tall at the center, his face calm but unreadable. He knew what his ship was. He knew what it carried. Not just weapons, but memory. "Captain," one officer whispered, voice shaking, "why is the galaxy so afraid of us? Why are they staring like we are monsters?" The captain's eyes narrowed as he looked out at the burning field, his voice steady. "Because humanity has always been more than they understood, and this ship is proof." In the broadcast feeds, historians began to speak, their voices grave. The Resolute was one of the last of the Sol-class dreadnoughts, built during the War of Extinction centuries ago when humans faced enemies beyond counting. These ships were not made to fight battles, they were made to win wars alone. The galaxy gasped. Few alive had ever seen one. Most believed them myths. But here it was, alive, awake, tearing through empires with ancient fury, one scholar whispered. Across the channel, that ship should not exist. It was said all Sol-class vessels were destroyed, dismantled, erased from history. How did this one survive? The answer lay in silence, deep in the heart of the Resolute, in its humming core, power older than the current war, technology no alien empire had ever unlocked. The humans had buried it, hidden it, until now, and its return sent ripples of fear into every watching heart. The Kelvar admiral stared in silence, her claws tapping the console. "This changes everything," she whispered. "If humans still hold such ships, they are not weak, they are not scattered, they are dangerous beyond belief." Her officers nodded nervously, unwilling to admit it, but unable to deny the truth blazing before their eyes. Back on the battlefield, the Dominion's rage grew. Humiliation turned to desperation. "Do not let it spread fear," their commanders barked. "Destroy it before the galaxy believes the legends." They pulled together a new formation, dreadnoughts shielding carriers, cruisers locking into position, a trap for the human ship. The Resolute moved steadily, its captain unshaken, his eyes reading the battlefield like a map already drawn. He whispered, "They think they are hunting us, but they are walking into their own grave. His crew felt his words settle into their bones, their fear replaced by fire. The trap closed. Alien fleets swarmed, weapons blazing, beams slicing through the dark. The Resolute's shields flared under the storm. Sparks filled. The bridge, alarm screamed. One officer shouted, "Shields at 60%, Captain." But the man did not waver. He raised a hand, calm as stone. Now, the ship's hidden systems activated. Light surged through the hull. A pulse rippled out, unseen but unstoppable. Alien targeting systems failed. Their engines sputtered. Their shields collapsed. Chaos erupted across the Dominion fleet. Their perfect trap turned into a cage of their own making. The Resolute struck back. Its cannons tore through cruisers. Its missiles cut into carriers. Dreadnoughts cracked open under its fire. The galaxy roared in disbelief, the commentators shouting over one another. No weapon has ever done this. No fleet has ever fallen so fast. It fights like a god of war. But inside the ship, the crew knew the truth. The power was not endless. The systems strained. The core pulsed too brightly. The captain knew every strike was a cost. Every victory burned fuel no one could replace. Still, his voice was calm. This is not about survival. This is about the message. And the message was clear. Across the stars, aliens whispered, some in fear, some in awe. If this is what one human battleship can do, what happens if more awaken? What happens if humanity returns? The Dominion fought desperately, but the Resolute broke their trap apart. The Kelvar watched in silence, and the galaxy held its breath. History was unfolding in fire and ruin. The captain stood at the center of it all, his eyes fixed on the stars, his voice low but strong. They forgot what we were. They forgot why they feared us. Tonight, they will remember. And with those words, the Resolute burned brighter, its guns blazing, its engines roaring, and across the galaxy beings of every kind felt a single truth sink into their hearts. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had not broken. Humanity had returned. And the storm had only just begun. The void was littered with burning wreckage. The galaxy watched as the Dominion reeled back from humiliation, their once perfect lines now broken, their dreadnoughts scattered, their cruisers in ruin. Yet in the center of the storm, the human battleship still advanced, scarred but alive, silent but unshaken. Across the stars, whispers spread like wildfire. How is it possible? How can one ship do this? Markets fell quiet. Councils argued. Rulers trembled. For every empire watching knew that fear was far more dangerous than fire. And fear was spreading faster than any weapon. The Andrix Dominion, consumed by rage, refused to accept defeat. Their high command gathered in the flagship, voices hard as steel. This cannot continue. The galaxy must not see us fall to one. Relic, prepare the trap, draw the human in, crush it with everything we have. And so the orders spread. A fleet of carriers moved into position. Dreadnoughts formed a wall. Destroyers and frigates filled the gaps. An entire arm of the Dominion's might coiled around the human battleship like a tightening noose. Hidden mines were armed, cloaked, gunships readied. It was a trap designed not for one ship but for entire armadas. From orbiting stations, from distant colonies, the galaxy leaned closer. Some believed this would be the end, others prayed it would not. The commentators filled the silence with trembling words. No vessel can escape such a net. The Dominion has set its jaws. Perhaps now the human ship will finally break. Inside the Resolute, the crew felt the pressure close around them. Red lights flashed across the command deck. Warnings sang like sirens. But the captain did not panic. His eyes studied the map of the stars, the tightening circle, and he whispered, "They think they have us, but they do not know the storm they have called." One young officer swallowed hard. "Captain, their numbers are endless. We cannot win against such a cage." The captain's eyes burned, not with fear, but with certainty. "We will not win with numbers. We will win with what they cannot imagine." His hand touched the arm of his chair. The ship seemed to hum in reply, as though it too understood. The trap closed. Alien ships unleashed their fury. The void lit with a storm of plasma. Missiles streaked like meteors. Beams cut through the black. The galaxy cried out. believing the end had come. The Resolute was swallowed whole in fire. But then, the ship went dark. Its lights dimmed, its weapons fell silent, its engines cold. To the watching eyes, it looked like a corpse drifting in the fire. The commentators gasped. "It is finished. The human ship is dead." The Dominion roared in triumph. Their commanders, sneering. So much for human legend. Yet inside the darkened ship, the crew waited in silence. The captain's voice calm. "Hold steady. Wait for the signal." Their hands trembled on controls, their eyes on him, trust holding them in place. Then it came, a pulse from the ship's hidden core, unseen by the galaxy, felt only as a shiver. In the bones, the ancient heart of the Resolute awakened, its power not of plasma or antimatter but of something older, a weapon humans had sworn never to use unless the end was near. The ship lit up once more, its hull blazing with white fire, its core spilling energy like lightning, and with it came the storm. An electromagnetic wave rippled out across the trap, invisible yet devastating. Dominion ships flickered, their shields collapsed, their targeting systems died, their engines sputtered into silence, thousands of vessels hung helpless, their trap broken in an instant. Gasps filled the galaxy. Commentators shouted over one another. What did it do? No weapon should cripple fleets at once. This is beyond known science, beyond anything we have seen. Fear spread faster than thought. If one ship could do this, what chance did empires have? The Resolute struck. Its cannons flared. Its missiles found their marks. Crippled ships shattered. Dreadnoughts cracked open. Carriers went dark. The void became a graveyard. One ship cutting through fleets like a blade through smoke. On the command deck, the crew trembled at the sight of such power. One officer whispered, "Captain, this is not war, this is slaughter." But the captain's voice was cold. "No, this is warning. This is the reminder they forced us to give." The Dominion commanders screamed in rage, powerless to stop the storm, their proud fleets crumbling into ash. The Kelvar alliance, watching from a distance, whispered among themselves, fear coiling in their throats. If one ship can do this, if humans still hide more, then no empire is safe. Across the galaxy, rulers began to panic, councils debated in secret. Should they fear the Dominion still? Or should they fear humanity more? The balance of power had cracked. And into that crack poured the name of one ship, one captain, one legend inside the Resolute. The crew watched as the last enemy ships drifted powerless. The trap turned to wreckage. Silence returned to the void. Their eyes turned to the captain. Waiting for his words, he stood tall, his gaze steady. They wanted to humiliate us, they wanted to break us. Instead, they gave us the chance to show the galaxy who we are. And so the ship moved forward once more, scarred but unbroken, carrying not just its crew but the weight of human history. And the galaxy knew, with a chill that ran through every world, that this was not the end. This was only the beginning of a storm no one could contain. The Dominion had laid a trap, but in their pride they had awoken something far greater. And now the galaxy whispered in awe and terror alike. Never fight a human battleship. The battlefield was quiet for the first time in hours. Wreckage drifted across the void like broken statues. The Dominion trap lay shattered, thousands of their ships dead or disabled, and yet the human battleship still lived, scarred, smoking, but alive. Across the galaxy, beings of every kind stared at their screens in silence, some with awe, some with terror, some with both. The Kelvar alliance, watching from a safe distance, whispered among themselves, "This cannot be real. No ship should endure this much." Their admiral sat frozen, her claws tapping nervously against the table. "It is real," she murmured. "And if one ship can do this, then humanity has never been as weak as we believed." Inside the Resolute, the air was heavy with smoke and sweat. Sparks danced from broken consoles, crew members patched wiring with trembling hands. Shields were low, engines strained, every system screamed warnings. The young officers turned to their captain, fear in their eyes. "Sir, we cannot keep fighting like this. The ship will not last." The captain's gaze did not waver, his voice steady even as the bridge shook. "We do not fight to last. We fight to be remembered. His words sank into every heart, silencing doubt, filling their veins with iron. But he knew the truth. The ship's core was burning too bright. Every shot drained it further. Every shield flare tore at its reserves. Time was running out. If the battle dragged on, the Resolute would not survive. So he made a choice. A gamble that could either end in glory or destruction. On the Galactic, broadcast commentators filled the silence. The Dominion is regrouping, their flagship supercarrier still lives. The heart of their fleet if the human ship dares strike it. This war could end in a single blow. Voices argued, some scoffing, some trembling. No ship could be so reckless. Yet the Resolute turned its prow toward the enemy flagship, a monstrous vessel larger than a city, its hull bristling with cannons, its shield flaring like a second sun. It was the pride of the Dominion, and the idea of one ship charging it was madness. Still, the human captain gave the order. Set. Course full speed. The crew froze for a heartbeat, then nodded, their hands flying across controls. The engines roared, the ship surged forward, fire spilling from its wounds. Every alien across the galaxy gasped. It's charging, it's going straight for the flagship. Disbelief spread like wildfire. The Dominion laughed at first, their commanders sneering. They mean to ram us, desperate fools. But inside their laughter was fear. For this ship had survived everything else. What if it could survive this too? The void lit with fire. Dominion cruisers moved to block the path. Destroyers flanked the Resolute. Cannons thundered. Missiles rained. But the human battleship did not slow. It weaved through the fire, cutting down any ship that dared cross its path. Beams of white light slicing like blades, explosions trailing in its wake. Inside, the crew's voices trembled. We will never make it. But the captain's voice cut through, calm, sharp. We will make it because we must. His eyes burned with something greater than survival. It was resolve. The Kelvar Alliance could not stay silent. Their admiral whispered, Do you see it? This is no ordinary captain, no ordinary crew. They move as if guided by destiny. Her words reached across the channel, carried to the galaxy, and the galaxy believed the Dominion flagship loomed larger and larger, its cannons blazing, its fighters swarming. The Resolute took hit after hit, its hull cracking, its shields buckling. But it did not stop. Its engines screamed, pushing it forward. Then the captain gave the final gamble. All power to the core. Reroute everything. Lights dimmed across the ship. Engines flickered. Weapons went silent. Every system drained into the heart of the vessel. The crew felt the floor shake beneath their boots as though they stood on the back of a living beast. The galaxy held its breath, waiting, watching, as the Resolute glowed brighter and brighter, energy spilling across its hull like rivers of lightning. Then with a roar of light it unleashed its fury. A beam shot forth, narrow and blinding, brighter than stars. It speared through the swarms of fighters, through the shields of the flagship, tearing into its heart. The Dominion's pride shook, metal groaned, fire spilled from its wounds, yet it still lived. Its cannons still fired. The Resolute did not stop. It dove closer, closing the distance, the captain's voice calm even as the bridge shook apart. One strike is not enough, we finish this up close. The Dominion flagship fired its main cannon, a blast strong enough to erase cities. The Resolute took the hit head on. Its shield shattered, its hull cracked, alarm screamed, the crew cried out. Yet the ship endured, scarred but alive, still moving forward. The galaxy erupted, voices screaming. It cannot be. No ship can take that. It should be gone. Yet it was not. It was still there, blazing forward like a spear of human defiance. The captain stood tall, his voice a whisper, but every crew member heard it. They will remember us not because we lived, but because we never bowed. The Resolute fired again, another beam cutting deeper into the flagship's core. Explosions ripped through the Dominion vessel, its hull tearing, its weapons falling silent. Yet still it resisted, its size alone keeping it alive. The final clash loomed. One ship against a titan, one captain against an empire. The galaxy leaned forward, their hearts pounding, waiting for the ending strike. And in that moment, As the Resolute charged closer, fire blazing from its wounds, the galaxy understood. This was not just a battle. It was a story, a legend being carved in fire, one that would echo forever. The human captain's gamble had begun, and win or lose, the galaxy would never forget what they saw. A single human battleship storming into the jaws of a giant, defying everything, daring the impossible, and showing the stars what it meant to be human. The galaxy seemed to stop breathing. Billions of eyes locked on the screen as two titans clashed in the void. The human battleship Resolute, scarred and blazing, charged headlong into the Dominion supercarrier, a warship so vast it looked like a floating city. The battlefield shook under their duel, and every onlooker knew they were witnessing something no history book could ever truly capture. The Dominion flagship fired first. Its main cannons unleashed a wave of energy brighter than suns. The blast rolled across space like a tidal wave. Smaller ships disintegrated in its path. Even wreckage turned to dust. Yet through the storm, the Resolute came. Its shields cracked, its hull screamed, fires erupted along its spine. But it did not fall. It refused to fall. Inside the human ship, alarms blared, smoke choked the air, crew members fought to keep systems alive, hands burned on controls, voices shouted status updates over the chaos. Engines failing, shields collapsing, hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. But the captain's voice cut through like iron. Ignore the pain, hold the course. We strike now or never. His calmness lit a fire in every soul. Their fear turned into resolve. The Resolute fired back. A beam of searing light shot forward, concentrated into a single spear. It tore into the supercarrier's flank, cutting through armor thicker than mountains. Explosions rippled across the Dominion flagship, its hull lit with fire, yet it remained standing, groaning like a wounded beast, but still alive. The crowd across the galaxy gasped. Commentators shouted over one another. It hurt the flagship. No one has ever heard it before. The human ship is actually tearing it apart. But all quickly turned into dread, for the Dominion giant retaliated with everything it had. Dozens of cannons lit the void. Missile swarms erupted from its bays. Fighter squadrons poured out like locusts. The sky turned red with fire. The Resolute shook violently under the impact. Metal screeched. Corridors collapsed. Crew members were thrown from their stations, but not a single one abandoned their post. They held because their captain held. On the bridge, sparks rained from the ceiling. A young officer screamed, "Captain, we can't hold much longer." But the man only narrowed his eyes, his voice calm. "Then we do not hold, we strike. Prepare the core." His words silenced. Fear, replacing it with steel. Deep in the heart of the ship, the ancient human core pulsed like a beating star. The crew rerouted every ounce of power. Lights dimmed, engines flickered, weapons fell silent. All energy funneled into the charging weapon. The galaxy saw the ship begin to glow, lines of light running across its battered hull, building toward something unthinkable. The Dominion flagship recognized the threat. Its commanders shouted, "Stop it, stop them now." Fighters threw themselves at the Resolute. Destroyers tried to block its path, but the human ship cut through them like a blade through paper. Every shot precise, every strike fueled by desperation and fury, the galaxy whispered in awe. It is unstoppable. The moment came. The Resolute's weapon fired. A blinding spear of white fire lanced across the void, striking the supercarrier. Directly in its core, the Dominion flagship convulsed. Fire tearing across its spine, towers of steel collapsing inward, decks erupting one after another, but somehow, impossibly, it still lived. The galaxy fell silent, waiting. The human captain stood calm, though blood ran down his forehead. He whispered to his crew. Again, his voice soft but fierce. "We do not stop until it falls." The core charged once more, though every system screamed in protest. The Dominion supercarrier, desperate, unleashed its own final weapon, its central cannon. A blast said to rival supernovas. The void lit with its fury. The shot tore through everything in its path. The Resolute met it head-on. Shields shattered. Instantly, hull cracked open. The bridge shook so violently it felt like the ship would break apart. But the core burned brighter, brighter, until it unleashed one final scream of light. The two beams clashed in the void, white fire against crimson. Rage. The galaxy watched in stunned silence, two forces colliding, tearing space itself. Shockwaves shattered nearby wreckage. Fighters disintegrated, ships drifted powerless. Inside the Resolute, the crew clung to their stations. Some prayed, some cried, but none fled. The captain stood tall, his voice steady. This is the moment the galaxy will remember. Let them see. Let them fear. Let them know what it means to stand against humanity. The beam cut through. The Dominion cannon broke. Fire spilled across the supercarrier's heart. Its engines burst. Its decks collapsed. The massive ship split apart, one half sliding away from the other in silence before detonating in an explosion so vast it lit the battlefield like a second sun. The galaxy erupted in gasps, shouts, disbelief. Billions of voices cried at once. The human ship did it. It destroyed the flagship. Awe turned into terror. For if one ship could kill the pride of the Dominion, what could humanity do with a fleet? The Resolute drifted in the aftermath, broken, smoking, its hull torn but alive. Barely. Its crew battered but breathing, their eyes wide with what they had just done. The captain stood among them. His voice, soft now yet firm. We have done what they said was impossible. They will never forget this night. And across the stars, no one laughed, no one mocked, no one dared. Every empire, every ruler, every soldier whispered the same words with trembling lips. Never fight a human battleship. The clash of titans was over, but its echoes would shake the galaxy for centuries to come. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Dominion supercarrier was gone, split apart in fire, its wreckage glowing like a dying sun in the cold void. Silence rippled across the battlefield. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of fear. Billions across the galaxy sat frozen before their screens, watching one lone human ship drift in the aftermath of impossible victory. The Resolute hung scarred and broken, its hull split in places, shields gone, fires still burning in shattered corridors, yet its silhouette still shone with terrible pride, like a wounded predator that refused to kneel. Across the stars the name spread. Resolute, the last human battleship. The whispers carried with awe, with terror, with something no one could name. Inside the ship the crew moved like ghosts through the smoke-filled decks, patching systems, dragging the wounded, listening to the ship's groans. Exhaustion weighed on every face, yet none dared complain. They had survived the storm. They had defeated an empire's pride. Still their captain stood tall, blood streaking his cheek, his voice steady. This is not our end. This is our beginning. On the galactic broadcast, commentators trembled, voices cracking with disbelief. The impossible has happened. One human ship has destroyed the Dominion flagship. The Andriks have lost their heart. Another voice added. The Kelvar watch silently, terrified. The galaxy itself now shifts under the shadow of humanity. Across distant worlds, rulers argued in panic. Some called for alliances against the humans. Others whispered of treaties. But none could deny what they had seen. One ship had humbled an empire. One ship had changed the balance of power. The Kelvar admiral, her eyes wide as she watched the burning wreckage, whispered to her officers, "If one ship can do this, then humanity may have more. Fleets hidden, waiting." Her words spread quickly, and across the stars paranoia bloomed. Back in the void, the Dominion fleets faltered. Their commanders shouted for retreat. Their ships broke apart in chaos. Fear had undone them more than fire. None dared face the human battleship again. And so the Dominion, once so proud, scattered like frightened prey. The galaxy roared in disbelief. Never before had a single ship turned the tide of war. Never before had fear spread so fast. The Resolute had not just fought. It had reminded the stars of something they had long forgotten: humanity's defiance. Inside the bridge, a young officer whispered, voice trembling, "Captain, what now? We cannot fight forever. The ship is dying." The captain's gaze was firm, his voice calm. "The ship will die one day, as will we, but the memory of tonight will live forever, and that is what matters." The galaxy continued to watch, waiting for the ship to fall silent. Yet it did. Not. Its engines flickered weakly but alive, its hull blazing with light from the fires within. And slowly, steadily, it turned away from the battlefield. Commentators cried out, "It's leaving. It is not claiming territory, not demanding surrender. It simply leaves." Confusion rippled through the stars. For in every war before, victory was claimed with banners, with planets, with spoils, but the humans claimed nothing. They left only fear. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all. The silence, left behind, screamed louder than any flag. Empires would now hesitate, rulers would whisper at night, soldiers would shiver at the thought because they all knew the same truth. If one ship could do this, humanity needed no armies to remind them of its power. On the bridge, the crew sat quietly, some weeping in exhaustion, others staring blankly into the stars. Their captain stood tall, his voice soft but steady. "We have given them a memory, and memories last longer than empires." The galaxy began to whisper in unison, the same phrase crossing countless tongues. Never fight a human battleship. It was no longer a warning, it was law, carved into the minds of every being who had witnessed the night. The Resolute drifted into the dark, scarred but proud, its silhouette fading from the battlefield, but its shadow stretched across the stars, haunting every empire, every council, every ruler who believed humans were weak. And across distant colonies, hidden human worlds stirred. The broadcast had reached them too. Men and women who had thought themselves forgotten now stood straighter, their hearts swelling with pride, for they had seen proof that humanity had not vanished. Humanity still carried fire enough to shake galaxies. The Dominion, humiliated and broken, licked its wounds in silence. The Kelvar, frightened but wise, reconsidered every plan of war, and smaller empires whispered prayers, hoping humanity would never turn its gaze upon them. But the human captain knew the truth as his ship vanished into the void. He whispered to himself, unheard by the galaxy, "This is only the beginning. They will never again believe we are weak." His crew heard him, and their eyes burned with the same fire. And so it was written, not in stone, not in paper, but in the hearts of billions. The legend of the Resolute, the story of one ship, one captain, one night when humanity reminded. The stars of its place, the galaxy would remember long after the wreckage had faded, long after the stars had moved. They would whisper the same words, fear clinging to their throats. Never fight a human battleship. For in that silence, in that memory lay the truth. Humanity had returned, and the storm they brought would never be forgotten.